0 to 60 can define a performance car, but it's the fastest 60 to 0 that's the aim of Tarok's brakes. From road cars to race cars, circuits, special stages, or the autostrada, nothing reduces speed like Tarok's brakes. Italy gave the world the art of Da Vinci and Michelangelo. Tarok's has given drivers the art of stopping. For more information and to acquire your own masterpiece, visit tarox.co.uk. Yes, it's me, Mike Stone, and this is the Backseat Driver podcast. I'd like to welcome to the Backseat Driver radio show James Tucker, racing driver, event organiser, commentator, catering company owner, and a man who started his racing career in a make of car most people do not associate with circuit racing. James Tucker, welcome to the Backseat Driver radio show.
Good day. How are you?
Not too bad at all. It's the weather is pleasant, and basically after I finish this, I'm going to go for a blast in the Morgan and just thoroughly enjoy myself, if only for 30 minutes.
I had a Morgan for a period. It was a white one. Yeah, enjoyed it immensely. The wooden chassis and going over the bumps and so on and so forth was a joy.
Yes, it reminds you just to what a bad condition the British roads are in just driving a Morgan.
Yeah, yes.
Now, as I said, you started your racing career in a strange way, in many ways through giving somebody a lift, and it went on from there in many ways, didn't it?
Yes. I was running a commercial kitchen company, and one of my staff, Jane, said to me, I've got a customer who wants a kitchen, would you come down and have a chat with him? So we went down and had a few beers and a chat, and time went on, and about 2:15 she suddenly panicked and realised that we had to go and pick up her son from school. So I drove her back in her car, and she got out looking a bit white, and knuckles white as well, and reported me to her husband, who happened to be the director of sport at the time for Haymill Saab, and was involved with the Mobile Saab Challenge, and I managed to get told off, and then invited to go and buy a car in Liverpool, which I had to buy myself, and then he said he would sponsor me for the rest. So I didn't pay for anything, but started in April 82, last on the grid at Thruxton in the freezing cold, managed to overtake somebody and felt very happy about the whole event.
A personal victory, sir.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. By the end of the season, I was leading the amateur championship, and from then on, we moved up the ladder, or sideways, or whichever way you like to say. But we learnt from all our mistakes, and that's basically what you do in motorsport.
True. I mean, the Saab was always been renowned for being a rally car, but which Saab was it, and how did it perform on the circuit?
It was a Saab 900 turbo. The turbos were restricted to one bar and had a pop-off valve. And basically, they were very quick but very heavy.
Yeah.
They were quick against each other, but not against anything else.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, but basically, they brought in people including Damon Hill and Jerry Marshall and Tony Lanfranchi and other guest drivers.
The problem being, of course, Jerry Marshall and Tony Lanfranchi make everybody else look slow, don't they, in saloon cars?
Well, yes, he was renowned for his tip and tail. He was a gusto of life. He had endless energy and endless numbers of packets of fags.
I don't think anybody will be surprised when I say I think it's something that I, and potentially you also, emulate, is that part of it all.
Well, yes, and that's why in this COVID thing, I've locked myself down and am enjoying a brief break from work. I still work at my tender age. So
now, from Saab, how did your career progress from there?
I went on to the Firestone Championship, which I was still supported by Haymill, by Paul Whitehouse. He put a couple of mechanics with me, and we went and had a go at that in a new car. Bernie, my mechanic, said to me, "Right, do you really want to do this?" I got a brand new car sitting on the forecourt, and he said, "We're going to have to rip all the interior out and put a roll cage in it and do all these things and so on." And I watched this car being ripped to pieces and bits being put in the skip. But we got it to go fairly well. We were sort of mid-running at that stage, midfield, and I enjoyed it, and then moved on from there to Lancia Integrale, which obviously Saab didn't promote, but
I remember you were saying when we were chatting earlier on, the Integrale was fantastic, up to about 120, then it stopped.
Yes, it was a brick. We were taking on the Sapphire, Cosworth, and so on, and Keith O'Dore with his Nissan Skylines and all the rest of it. And whilst it was very quick, four-wheel drive and so on, and we actually changed that from 60-40 front rear to 40-60 the other way round, so that we could get some rear end grip and so on and try and chase them. But that again, we had some fun at Donington one particular weekend. We qualified about the 13th midfield, and Bernie, my mechanic, went and got a big heavy brush and brushed the track in front of us, and we managed to get up to second by the time we got to the first corner.
Redgate.
Well, yeah. Well, for the second race and the third race of the day, everybody was brushing the track in front of the cars. So we actually brought in something, and I think that was actually went quite a long way. I think even touring cars adopted some of the ideas.
If something appears to work, it will catch on very quickly in racing, won't it? No matter how strange it might seem to be. So,
yeah.
I mean, from the racing, you eventually moved. You carried on racing, but you eventually moved into the organisation of it. What caused you to stop racing as such, or decrease the racing?
Well, I moved from production saloons, and a guy called Willie Moore from Milton Keynes basically said to me, "Why didn't I go to the Nürburgring?" And we went to the Nürburgring a couple of times, and then decided to take on the 24 hours. And I had done sort of 3 and 4 hour races, sharing the drive with somebody else. And then we did a 6 hour with 3 people, and built it up to doing a 24 hour race with 4 people in the car.
Yeah.
I got the bug because 20-minute racing is fine, but it's over too quick. And the Nürburgring, we went there as Brits, has a start number of 200 cars.
Yeah.
So there are 200 cars starting the 24-hour race, or I think in the past few years even 240.
I mean, that's a serious number of cars to have on a grid, isn't it?
Yeah, they separate them sort of 60 cars at a time and leave a minute or 2 minutes between each grid, and they start them all at the same time. But the front 60, 70, 80 cars is GT 3 Porsches and proper kit. And then it goes down to the BMWs, then it goes down to the smaller cars and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Like a 2-litre Honda or something like that. You got to also realise that the track is sort of 13, 15 miles long.
Yeah.
Including the Grand Prix circuit, and from one side of the track to the other, it can be sunny, it can be raining, and even in May, it can be snowing.
Yeah.
So you're right up in the mountains, and it's a beautiful spot. And you're going through the trees, and the trees are all pine, so you get all these droplets of pine mixed with water, and that creates like a moss on the track, and literally overnight the track can go green, as Stuart called it, green hell.
Yeah.
In the Grand Prix cars, as they race there in their day. But every lap is different. Every corner becomes a challenge, and there are a lot of them.
Oh yes, I've driven it on a few occasions, and somebody said, well, after a while you get to know a circuit. I said, you will remember parts of the Nordschleife. I said, but you have to be there virtually every day to get to the stage where you can remember it, because it is so long, as you've just said.
Yes. I mean, the Willie Moore went on to being what they call a ringmeister, along with Sabina Reck, or Sabina Schmidt as she's now known, who is the girl that did the transit van on Top Gear.
Yep.
And you meet all these characters, and as you kindly said, I retired at 45. The reason for that was I could no longer see the people on the bank, let alone see the things in front of me. So I felt that my eyesight had done me in, and basically we went to Sabina's restaurant called the Piston Klaus one evening. I think we came out of that about 4 o'clock on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
When the sun was coming up, ready for the 24-hour race. And we discussed ways in which we could bring endurance racing to the UK.
Yeah.
So my job was basically, I was given the job, thanks to Ian Donaldson and Willie, and Sabina for that matter. And basically, we wrote the rules and regulations. We approached the MSA, Motorsports Association, as they were called in those days, and John Symes, who was the safety officer, and myself wrote the rules and made up the way in which we could keep it in a sensible line with regard to value for money, because there weren't the brakes in the day, so you could make up, you could use that quarter of an hour break between races as part of the race. So we were saving time and saving money, and we could reduce our prices accordingly, and therefore it became attractive to people sharing a car. When they hadn't got enough money to run it on their own, they could actually bring in somebody, or if they hadn't got much talent, they could bring in a professional to help them out to get to the front.
Yeah.
And it started with 14 cars, and it grew very quickly. I started with a man called John Van Es, who was Paul Whitehouse, a friend of Paul Whitehouse at Saab, and we found a £10 note and started a kitty. And that was it. That was how the European Endurance Racing Club, which later became Britcar, started. And we weren't very good at our paperwork, and we were at Brands Hatch, I think, for about the third race, and we were standing in reception, signing people on or trying to sign drivers on and so on. But there were so many of them that we got ourselves in a mess.
Yeah.
And Claire Headley, who now runs Britcar, who joined the company by walking into that office and saying, "Do you need a hand?" Right? And then she stayed for 25 years.
Yeah.
And now she runs Britcar in the Endurance Championship and also the Trophy Championship, and is doing very well. I'm very pleased for her.
I mean, the one thing is, the racing world, especially in England, understand endurance racing, but to people outside it, it's a bit of a rarefied world. They've nearly all heard of the Le Mans 24 Hour, which is often described as the British holiday hosted by France. But it's a completely different world, is endurance, as to how you go about it, the teams, the cars, the different classifications. Where F1, technically every car is identical, or near to being identical. Endurance racing it's open to all types of cars, all sizes and classes, and in many ways all types of drivers. As you said, you get the professionals, the gentleman drivers, or the amateurs. It is an unusual form of racing for people who don't particularly understand it.
Yes. Going back to my first 24-hour race, which was at Snetterton, and it was called the Wilhire. It was run by the BRSCC, and the chairman at the time was a guy called John Nicol, who I became very friendly with. And I did that with Gary James and his Golf. He had a Mark I Golf, and we were up against Cosworth and all sorts of other bits of machinery, and we were being lapped on a regular basis. But within our class, we had a fight on our hands, because there were 8 or so cars in the same class, and one lap you'd be up and next lap you'd be down. The reason for that, somebody was refueling or somebody was saying this, and there was a competition. And the thing about it was, the garage doors were open, everybody helped everybody else, the spanners were passed, the tea was passed, alcohol was passed occasionally, but the whole feeling of it was of a family group, and it was close racing, believe it or not. Even though certain races maybe cars were 5 or 6 laps in front, that over 24-hour race is not a great distance, and it could be made up. Somebody just needed to make a mistake and dent a corner, and it needed to be straightened out. Could take 20 minutes, and you could make that time up. And it was good competition. I went on with John Nicol to 94, and then in 94 the Wilhire was cancelled because of the recession at the time, and there were very few cars out there. And I promised him that I would bring endurance racing back, and it took me some time, the money markets and so on. And then in 2005, I managed to get our first race at Silverstone, and that was done by going to the parish councils first, and asking the chairman of each of those councils, Silverstone and Whittlebury, to allow us to run a 24-hour race, and the limitations were purely on sound. And of course, sound is a horrendous subject, which the tree huggers love, we hate. But it's not understood. And Silverstone, depending on the time of the year, in September, for instance, it can be very foggy.
Yeah.
And fog is one of the worst things. Forget rain and so on and so forth, but fog, and sunshine for that matter as well. Fog is one of the worst things that you can have, because you know full well that, and you've heard the stories of submarines where somebody's got a spanner and banged on the side, and you can hear that through the water. and it travels a long way, same as an elephant when it makes its call. Noise of cars travels 6 times the distance in fog.
Right. I must confess, I didn't know that.
Yes, so whilst you think you're surrounded by cotton wool, the sound that you're making travels a long, long way. And we couldn't believe it when we got complaints from anything up to 12 miles away for running at 2 o'clock in the morning at Silverstone. And we had complaints, and we had to deal with that. So we had to reduce noise levels. We had to do all sorts of things to appease everything, and it all worked. And it's and the 24-hour race is still continuing today, but not in my name.
Yeah.
It's moved on, and Silverstone still run one 24-hour race every year.
I mean, I think one of the most famous coverages of that race was when the old Top Gear participated, Clarkson, Hammond and May, and they did it in a diesel 3 Series BMW.
Yeah, I wrote the script on that and took it to Top Gear and said to them, look, why don't you do something different? You chase each other around all the countries, etc., but you actually never done a race. They came along with 4 Stigs and signed on. We knew all the Stigs because they'd all raced in brick car at some stage or another.
Even though they all had their white helmets on, they all had to present their license.
Yeah. So they did the race, and the accident happened at 2 o'clock in the morning when their junior driver, Hammond, basically bumped into the leader and cost the leader his race. But I had my 17 seconds of fame being on Top Gear when I had to go into the garage and tell them in front of the cameras that they could get the car back on its wheels, and they needed a scrutineer to go back out again, and they could go back racing, and that's what they did. And it was a great success because I think we had about 5 people in the stands that year, and the following year we had about 8,000. So it was great for us. It was great for Top Gear because it was one of their top programs, and it's the only program which the leader burst into tears in the car, banging the steering wheel, having completed a 24-hour race. And that's the exhilaration you get from achieving a 24-hour race. And you see it time and time again at Le Mans and other places where everybody's in tears and hugging each other, etc., because it's such a challenge, not only to the mechanics, but to the team owners and the sponsors and so on and so forth. And it's a great place to be. Endurance racing has been copied by lots and lots of people now, and it's thriving in the UK. There is a future in it. I mean, recently Citroen C1s,
yes,
68cc cars, have put together a field of 320 odd cars and been able to start 100 cars on the grid at one time in England, and that's indirectly come from the grassroots and the things that Claire, myself, and John Van Es and Willie Moore and Ian Donaldson and Sabina Reck and all the others put together and thought of, and so on. I was fortunate enough to be their leader for a time.
I mean, the great thing about the little Citroens is, and it's like it also takes in the Peugeots as well, the cars are, apart from stripping out of the interiors and a roll cage, the cars are standard cars. They run on road tyres, the normal wheels,
yes.
and it's potentially, and the cars, of course, are bought second hand.
Yes.
But it's a case of the car.
So you can buy a car for £1,000.
Yeah.
4 of you can get together and put in 250 quid each. Then you've got to spend roughly about £3,000 on it, right?
Yeah.
And you can go racing.
Yeah.
You can apply for an ARDS test, which is like a road test. Get your helmet, your suit, and share a weekend in a car, racing at Silverstone with 100 other cars, so 400 drivers taking on a challenge. And whether you win or lose, the answer is, you get the experience of endurance racing, and in its way, it's no different to going to Le Mans. No different at all.
No, and the other thing is, it's endurance racing is one of these strange combinations. You have to drive your racing, so you want to progress with any luck, you progress to the front, but you've still got to be reasonably kind to the car because you actually would like it to travel for the full 24 hours. So it's this fine balance between racing yet being kind to the car.
Yes, absolutely, and getting the most out of the tyres and making them last, making the fuel last. Even, I know it sounds daft, but you've got to go further on a tank than anybody else because it means that you have to stop less times in the 24-hour period. John Nicol was very much responsible for keeping me and doing all this, and I think the high point for me was the recognition that I was given by John Nicol's following chairman, who was Bernard Cottrell at the time, giving me the Roy James Trophy, or the John Nicol Trophy. It was as it was renamed. I don't know, you remember Roy James, do you?
It's one of those things, I remember the name. I never actually met him.
Right, Roy James was a racing driver who had ambitions to go to Formula One, but he got involved with a group of people that basically wanted to make a lot of money, and he wanted money because he hadn't got any and he needed sponsorship.
I know the feeling, sir. And
he was the getaway driver for the Great Train Robbery.
Oh, right.
And was put in prison for 30 years.
Yeah.
And he made a trophy because he went to the silversmith school in the prison.
Yeah.
And made a trophy for the BRSCC. People who've won it include Sir Jack Brabham, Nick Tandy, Damon Hill, Sir Frank Williams, Eddie Jordan, Mark Webber, Lewis Hamilton, Murray Walker, and Johnny Herbert. And I got given the trophy. I got conned into going to a dinner, and I sat at this dinner and then was told I had to go up on stage. And one of the highest points of my career was to be recognised as somebody who brought endurance racing to the UK. Absolutely fantastic.
So I've seen this before. I haven't received a trophy, but I once had to get somebody to a similar thing, a dinner, because they were being awarded a trophy, but they didn't know. And most people who are winning certain trophies don't know. And the difficulty at times is actually getting them to go, because sometimes they'll say, I'm doing something else. And you've got to inveigle them. And
Yes, well, I blame that on my wife. Wendy was very persuasive, and bless her, she's no longer with me, but she and Claire Williams, as she was then, now Claire Headley of Bricker, managed to con me into going to this dinner for some reason or another, and I was presented this amazing trophy, which is held by the BRSCC. It's not kept, although I managed to keep it for a year on a shelf in the office. brilliant.
With the occasional phone call, when are you going to let us have that back?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I polished the silver away. It was lovely. There we go.
And of course, it would be the history of the person who made it. Of course, will add to the significance of actually being the custodian of that trophy for 12 months.
Yes, yes, yes. The sport has been full of characters, similar to Roy James, who've wanted to move themselves forward to things. For instance, touring car teams that went to Europe and came back and got stopped by customs and all sorts of things. But yeah, they put the sniffer dogs on one truck. I seem to remember, and a policeman turned the gas knob on top of the gas bottle, and the dog went wild. But those characters are plain gentlemen in amongst the sport. The sport is full of characters who basically want to get to the front of a race.
Yeah.
And the ways in which it's done. In Formula One, we have 21, 20, sometimes 18 cars. Has been going on for years and years, and it's about the technology, but it's also about the best driver, and the best team with the best car with the best driver will win. End of story.
Yeah.
And it's become very boring to watch Mr. Hamilton going round and round and round. But it just shows that the technology of that particular car, the Mercedes car, and his previous team, McLaren, had the best cars at the time.
Yeah, I think the thing is as well, and I can't immediately remember the young guy's name, but when Hamilton was replaced the other week, everybody said, now it's patently obvious that it is the car and not the driver, because the young lad did tremendous things behind the wheel of the Mercedes-Benz. Yes,
and that's been the case right the way through history, basically. One or two exceptions. One or two drivers, for instance, Sterling Moss, who never won a world championship. He gave it away, in so much that he went to support of Mike Hawthorn, and because Mike Hawthorn was being disqualified for something, and saved the day.
Yeah.
I have a great affiliation with Sterling Moss. I made a phone call to ask him whether or not he would come and start my 24-hour race in 2006, 2007 year. And he had an open phone like we have now, and basically I could hear the sink, somebody washing up in the sink, which was obviously Susie, his wife, and I said to him, could you come and start the race? Oh yeah, and it'd be so much money and so and so so and so. So I said, I'm very sorry, but I can't afford that. But just in passing, your first wife, Katie, is a very, very distant cousin of mine.
Yeah.
Right? And he said, oh, well, wonderful. And the washing up stopped and so on and so forth. And I thought about it. And then I said, well, maybe next year we'll be able to do something or whatever. And we left as friends. And I said to Claire in the office, I said, I think we'll get a phone call back.
Yeah.
10 minutes later, the phone rang, and he said, I'll do it for half the price. Right? My wife has told me I have to, because she was the best friend of Katie, my cousin.
Yeah.
Which was very nice. I've got a lovely photograph of Sir Sterling and Brian Jones, who was the voice of Brands Hatch for many years, bless him. and myself at the start of the 24-hour race that year, which is on my mantelpiece and very, very much treasured.
I mean, the one thing you said about talking to Sir Sterling with the washing up going on in the background, Sterling, Moss, etc., they came from an era when drivers were human beings. It just happened to be that they were virtually gods behind a steering wheel, but in every other respect, they were normal people. And I think you can say that about sports car racers or drivers and endurance drivers. Maybe it's changed today as the teams become what they are, but they are a different breed of endurance racers, aren't they? They are more approachable. They have a different mindset to an F1 guy who lives in a cocooned public relations world and can only say what he's been told he can say.
The money men have destroyed the contact with the F1 drivers. There's so much money involved. One has to have security as well, because of the dreadful world we live in. The man in the street used to be able to go to the back of garages and the photographs of Formula One with photographers actually standing on the edge of the grass at the top of Paddock Hill.
Yeah.
Right? Taking photographs in even up to the 80s, right? And people wandering around in the pit lane, etc. And the barriers were non-existent. I mean, take the race at Goodwood where Sterling was badly hurt. And if you go there today, there are still no barriers at Goodwood. Whereas if you go to Silverstone, now the barriers are 200, 300 yards away from the track.
Yeah.
Well, they've moved back, and the people have moved back, and now the cars are so small, you actually can't get to see them. The fan club rises and falls, and this year it's dropped off. 19 million, I believe, have dropped off watching Formula One because it's become a procession.
Yeah.
Because the leading team has now been leading for the two cars involved have been leading for 5 or 7 years, 8 years next year, if Hamilton wins again. And it's just a procession. It needs to be humanized and so on, and it needs some help, I think.
Yeah.
Right. It needs to be different. Maybe it needs refueling again. Maybe it needs something. It's become a procession, but the problem is everybody gauges motor racing and says Formula One.
Yeah.
Right, because everybody's seen it on television, etc. And then there's touring cars, and then after that you don't see very much. You may see some odd races at lower level with regard to things, but Sky Television used to have regular filming of different championships, etc. They don't do that anymore, and motorsport has gone backwards because of noise. It's gone backwards because of cost. It's also gone backwards because now it's about egos and big money.
Yeah.
And somebody in the street doesn't feel as though they can afford to go motor racing. Well, the answer is you can. You can buy a Citroen C1, or you can go and buy a Mazda MX RX-8 or MX-5 or whatever for £2,000 or £3,000. Tune it up, give it a coat of paint that you like, and basically put a roll cage in it and go racing. So, and it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be thousands and thousands of pounds. It can be the same amount of money as joining a golf club and playing golf.
Yeah.
And that's what's missing. The fact that is happening, and you can go and do and race at a race meeting, or you can go and do a track day, for instance, you could take your road car and go on track and enjoy the day and play it safe and wear a helmet and learn the skills and say that you've been on a track.
Very quickly, James, before we go, what does motor racing still hold in store for James Tucker?
Well, currently I'm building cars, but and it's taken years. It's taken 25, 30 years for the progression of what I look at as achievement, and that is the fact that so many that I didn't think would ever go there have been to Le Mans.
Yeah.
Who started in little Hondas and so on and so forth, and progressed to Ferrari and then to a GT3 or big Ferraris such as the McInerney, Sean and father, and go to Le Mans, and people like Sam Hignett, Jota, who are now doing LMP3 at Le Mans, who started in Mazda MX-5s, John Gore, who's now the chairman and managing director of Aston Martin. He started in Britcar. He was a salesman for Smith's Crisp, I think, at that stage. Andrew Howard, who's raced at Le Mans and took Nigel Mansell with him, and Nigel Mansell managed to wreck the car. Jamie Campbell-Walters, Leventus, the owner of Relentless, started at a 24-hour race at Britcar. Richard Dean, who's United Autosport, with Zach Brown, who's now the chairman of McLaren, did Britcar. Lawrence Tomlinson of Ginetta. You go on, and then there's the drivers who just go to drive, and that's like Phil Keane and Johnny Adams, people like that, and that's where I have enjoyed it, being able to see people come through and move on from, if you like, a minor club, to being at the front of the world field, including the stars of television and also cycling. Sir Will Hoy. He raced in Britcar and then went on to Le Mans. Paul Hollywood, who makes cakes, I believe.
Yes.
All those sorts of characters have been involved in one way or another with Britcar endurance racing and 24-hour racing.
James Tucker, it's been an absolute delight, but with regret I have to stop this. We're running out of time. So James Tucker, it's been an absolute delight chatting to you, and thank you for joining me on the Backseat Driver radio show.
And thank you, sir.
Rarely beaten on price, never beaten on service. Whether it's cars, bikes or commercials, Hoddy Tyres are the best in the business. And when it comes to tyre expertise and advice to supplying the correct tyres for your vehicle's specific requirements, nobody comes close to David Lakin and the Hoddy Tyres team. So give them a call on 01200 613 192 or visit the website at hoddytyres.co.uk.